You might be thinking, why should I care about the history of a piece of paper with a dead president's face on it? Well, let me tell you, the dollar is so much more than that. Did you know that the dollar wasn't always the currency of the United States? In the early days of the country, colonists used all sorts of things as money, from wampum, which are beads made from shells, to tobacco. Can you imagine trying to buy a cup of coffee with a handful of shells? Yeah, it was just as confusing back then. But as the colonies started to come together to fight for their independence, they realized they needed a unified currency. And thus, the dollar was born. The name dollar is thought to have originated from the German word thaler, which was a large silver coin used in Europe in the 16th and 17th centuries. The word thaler was shortened to dollar in American English. Fast forward to today, and the dollar is the most widely used currency in the world. It's accepted in countries from Canada to Cambodia, and it's even used as the unofficial currency in some places where the local currency is unstable. So, whether you're a history buff or just someone who likes to know where their money comes from, we've got a treat in store for you. Join us as we dive into the exciting, often surprising, and always fascinating history of the dollar. Colonial America and the Continental Dollar. In colonial America, the use of currency was a bit of a Wild West. Each colony had its own form of money, and it was common for people to use whatever they could get their hands on. But as the colonies started to trade more with each other and the British, a lack of standard currency became a real problem. Imagine having to weigh and measure tobacco leaves every time you wanted to buy something. Talk about a buzzkill. So, the colonies started to experiment with different forms of currency. Some printed their own paper money, while others tried to use foreign coins like the Spanish dollar. But none of these solutions really caught on. It was like trying to make a square peg fit in a round hole. It wasn't until the Revolutionary War that the need for a national currency became urgent. The Continental Congress, the group of leaders fighting for independence, realized that if they were going to win the war, they needed a way to pay their soldiers and buy supplies. And so, the Continental Dollar was born. These notes were printed by the Continental Congress and were backed by the promise of future taxes. Unfortunately, they were not widely accepted and were soon rendered worthless by hyperinflation. But the Continental Dollar was an important step in the right direction. It was the first time the colonies had come together to create a unified currency, and it laid the foundation for the dollar we know and use today.
The birth of the dollar. After the Revolutionary War, the United States was in dire need of a stable currency. The Continental Dollar had failed miserably, and people were hesitant to use paper money. It was like trying to convince someone to put all their eggs in a basket made of paper mache. Enter Alexander Hamilton, the first Secretary of Treasury, who saw the need for a stable currency and pushed for the creation of the dollar as we know it today. In 1792, Congress passed the Coinage Act, which established the dollar as the official currency of the United States and set up the U.S. Mint to produce coins. The dollar was based on the Spanish dollar, which was widely used in international trade at the time. It was divided into 100 cents, just like it is today, and it was based on a gold standard. That means that each dollar was backed by a certain amount of gold held by the government. For a while, this system worked well. The gold standard provided a sense of stability, and the dollar was widely accepted both domestically and internationally. But as the country grew and expanded, the gold standard became increasingly difficult to maintain. One of the major challenges was the Civil War. The Union government had to print a lot of money to pay for the war effort, which led to inflation and a weakening of the dollar. After the war, the government tried to return to the gold standard, but it was never the same. The gold standard era was a roller coaster ride, with ups and downs, but it laid the foundation for the modern era of the dollar. The gold standard was abandoned in 1971, and since then the dollar is a fiat currency, backed by the full faith and credit of the US government. From the gold standard to the fiat era. One of the biggest benefits of the transition to fiat currency was that it gave the government more flexibility in managing the economy. Without the constraint of the gold standard, the government could print more money or raise interest rates as needed. This flexibility was put to the test during the 1970s, when the country was hit by a series of economic crises, including a recession and high inflation. To combat these challenges, the Federal Reserve, the central bank of the United States, raised interest rates and tightened monetary policy. But this was not a one-time event. The Federal Reserve plays a crucial role in managing the economy and the value of the dollar on a daily basis. It sets monetary policy, regulates banks and other financial institutions, and provides financial services to the US government. The fiat currency system has proven to be more resilient and adaptable to changing economic conditions. However, it also means that the value of the dollar is not directly tied to any physical commodity, which makes it vulnerable to market sentiment, geopolitical events, and other external factors. Today, the dollar is still the most widely used currency in the world, and it continues to play a central role in the global economy. So, whether you're a Wall Street banker or just someone who likes to have a few bucks in your pocket, the dollar is an integral part of our financial lives. The hegemony of the dollar. The dollar plays a significant role as the global reserve currency, which means that it is widely used by governments, central banks, and international organizations to hold reserves of foreign exchange. The dollar's status as the global reserve currency is partly due to the fact that the United States has the largest and most developed economy in the world, and the fact that the US dollar is widely accepted as a medium of exchange and store of value. The dollar's global reserve currency status also gives the United States several advantages, such as the ability to borrow at lower interest rates, and to influence the global economy through monetary policy. Additionally, the global demand for the dollar as a reserve currency helps to keep the value of the dollar relatively stable and supports the position of the US Treasury securities as a safe haven for investors. But the hegemony of the dollar, or its dominant position in the global economy, is currently facing some challenges. The euro and the Chinese renminbi are both seen as potential challengers to the dollar, and countries are working to increase their global economic influence by promoting the use of their own currencies in international trade and finance. Another factor is the political one. The United States has been facing growing tension with other countries over issues such as trade, tariffs, and sanctions, which could lead to a reduced demand for the dollar and a decrease in its use in international transactions.
The future of the dollar. In recent years, one of the most notable changes has been the rise of digital currencies, such as Bitcoin and Ethereum. These decentralized, digital currencies use blockchain technology to record transactions and are not controlled by any government or central authority. While digital currencies are still relatively new and not widely used, they have the potential to disrupt the traditional financial system and change the way we think about money. Digital currencies offer several benefits over traditional fiat currencies, such as faster and cheaper cross-border transactions. But it's also possible for the dollar itself to be transformed into a digital currency, and there are already some existing examples of this. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve, which is the central bank of the United States, has been investigating the potential benefits and challenges of issuing a digital dollar, and several pilot projects have been proposed and are under development, like the Digital Dollar Project. Solutions like PayPal and Venmo have had a significant impact too on the use and circulation of the dollar. These digital payment systems allow individuals and businesses to easily transfer money electronically, which has increased the speed and efficiency of transactions. As a result, the use of cash has decreased and the use of digital payments has increased. This shift has also made it easier for people without access to traditional banking systems to participate in the economy. Another interesting development has been the growing use of the dollar in countries where the local currency is unstable. In places like Venezuela and Zimbabwe, the dollar has become the unofficial currency, used for everything from buying groceries to paying rent. This is a testament to the enduring power and global reach of the dollar. Despite its ups and downs, the dollar continues to be the currency of choice for people around the world. We've come a long way from the days of wampum and tobacco leaves. The dollar has survived wars, economic crises, and technological revolutions. It's a fascinating story that's still being written, and you never know what the next chapter will bring. In conclusion, the history of the dollar is a story of resilience, adaptability, and power. We've come a long way from the days of wampum and tobacco leaves. The dollar has survived wars, economic crises, and technological revolutions. It's a fascinating story that's still being written, and you never know what the next chapter will bring. It's been an exciting journey and we hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. If you did, please show us some love by hitting that like button, leaving a comment, and subscribing to our channel. We'll be back with more fun and informative videos about money, economics, and history.